When they asked me to do this, I said, fine, is Anton on the program? And they said, yeah. I said, do I have to follow Anton? And they said, yeah. I said, okay, I'll lose that one, because Anton's a tough act to follow. I said, but look, if you're going to design the program and I'm following Anton, make sure he's got a lot of time, okay? Just make sure you book the agenda so he has a lot of time. And thank you, Anton, for that. I have heard Anton speak a lot. I know Anton very, very well. He's very passionate, and I thought he had a great message for the group today. My message is a bit different level. It's about unification of the accounting profession within Canada. And if you looked at your binders, I said I really wanted to cover 4 topics. Why are we doing this? What is our approach? What have we accomplished to date? And most importantly, what's the outlook? But prior to dealing with those 4 topics, I thought I should give a little primer on the Canadian accounting profession, because I can stand up here and speak about unification within Canada, but if you don't really have a sense of how the Canadian accounting profession is put together, it's like Greek. So let me just give you a very quick primer in terms of the Canadian accounting profession. We have 3 professional designations within Canada: Chartered Accountants, CA; Certified Management Accountants, CMA; Certified General Accountants, CGA. There's about 170,000 professional accountants within Canada, and if you looked at the split, it's about roughly 50, 25, 25 between CA, CGA, and CMA. And over the last number of years, in various parts of Canada, each of those professional designations, at least for certain segments of their members, have gotten public accounting rights, assurance rights, audit rights, etc. I said within various parts of Canada. We are provincially regulated within Canada. I live in Ontario. I'm an Ontario CA. So just like you are state-based, we are provincial-based within Canada. So when you think of the number of provinces within Canada, when you think of the number of territories, and then the national bodies, and then you multiply that by 3, you end up with 40 governing bodies that deal with the oversight and regulation of the profession within Canada. So lots of bodies dealing with 170,000 members in a country that represents roughly 4% of global capital markets. So the one other thing I want to talk about the Canadian profession, because this is important in terms of our initiative, is the CICA's role in standard setting. We're probably unique as a member body around the world in terms of our role in standard setting. Any accounting standard within Canada, whether it's for public companies, private companies, the government, any assurance standard in Canada, whether I'm talking about audits, reviews, compilations, etc., all of that is funded for, paid by, staffed by the CICA. Okay? There is no FASB in Canada. There's no GAO in Canada that sets government accounting standards. There is a comparable to the PCAOB. It's called CPAB within Canada. It inspects the audit firms who are auditing listed entities, but CPAB does not set audit standards within Canada. That all flows through the CICA. Like I said, we're a bit unique around the world in terms of that role. It's a role that's very important to us. It's a role we want to maintain. It's a role we want to keep. That's another key thrust in terms of unification. And when I look at global accounting standards and global audit standards, which I will talk about a bit in terms of going global, we have a big role within IFAC in terms of playing within that sets global assurance standards and ethics standards, but also vis-a-vis the IASB, which sets IFRS. We are the only professional accounting body in the world that funds the IASB. We fund them to the tune of about $900,000 a year, and it's a big contribution that Canadian CAs make to the setting of global accounting standards. And just on IFRS, I'll say, yes, Canada has adopted IFRS, but when they come to Canada, they come through a filter. They come through the filter of the Canadian Accounting Standards Board, which again is staffed and funded by the CICA. So they become Canadian GAAP within Canada, okay? We don't have any carve-outs within Canada in terms of IFRS. It's not our intent to have any carve-outs. That option is always there because I think you always have to have a national filter on any global standard that you are adopting. So that's a bit of a primer on the Canadian accounting profession. So let me now move to why are we doing this? And let me dial back a couple of years where we sat back, the CA profession sat back and said, let's have a look at the landscape, where we are, where we think the world's going to unfold, what did we see, and then based on what we saw, what do you think we should do? So what did we see? As I said, 3 designations within Canada. The size I have talked about. The other 2 bodies, CGA and CMA, though, were growing well. We were about 50% of the accounting profession within Canada, but the other 2 designations were growing well. We certainly saw fragmentation. We certainly saw an inefficient profession within Canada. Each of the bodies would be spending millions of dollars a year on advertising, saying, look at how the CA is better than the CGA or CMA, or the CGAs would spend $1 million a year or $5 million a year saying, look at how CGA is better than CMA and CA. Really, when you step back and thought about it from a profession's point of view, is that really a good allocation of resources? So we had a lot of fragmentation, a lot of inefficiency, 40 governing bodies for 170,000 members within Canada. We saw that we weren't always speaking with one voice, both nationally and globally. And if you don't speak with one voice, if you do speak with different voices, what tends to happen is the voices cancel each other out. We saw a world that was going global, both in terms of assurance standards, accounting standards, the audit firms within Canada, the firms that they serviced within Canada. And we saw that, again, as a country that represents 4% of global capital markets, that we had to be a piece of that. We had to figure out a way to secure our influence at the global level. Now, you might say, when you're only 4% of the world, what's the chances you're going to have influence at the global level? But like I said, the CICA has had a strong history in terms of standard setting. We do believe we punch above our weight at the global level. It's very important for us to continue to secure that going forward. And we knew if we stayed all kind of divided within Canada, that was going to be difficult to do. Because to have that influence going forward, we knew it was going to take a lot of resources. It was going to take people. It was going to take money. It was going to take investment. And in a world of tight resources, if I'm spending millions and millions of dollars advertising, comparing one designation to the other, that's a lot of dollars that could be used in probably more effective purposes for the development of the profession going forward. When we looked at the way that people became CAs within Canada, our program was just really, really good if you were an accounting or business graduate. You know, we have that space aced. But if you were a non-business graduate, if you wanted to work in industry, if you were a mid-career changer, if you were an immigrant, our system wasn't as good as it had to be and needed to be. And when you look at the demographics of Canada, when you look at how Canada is going to grow over the next decade, we needed to be better in all of those other spaces. We also sat back and looked around the world and said, we're CA in Canada. You know, what are the designations around the world? And the way we looked at it, we thought the 2 most globally recognized designations around the world were CA and CPA. Probably about twice as many CPAs in the world as CAs. CPA was growing faster, particularly in areas like Asia. Because that was something we had to think about in terms of what we wanted to do. Anton also mentioned ACCA. I don't like to talk about ACCA much, so that's why it's not on the slide. So that's how that's how we saw the world in 2010. And then we had to do some strategic planning. And I know a number of you have been involved in strategic planning in the past. And I've been involved in a lot of it as well. I spent the bulk of my career with PwC. I was a client service partner, so I saw how clients did it. I ran the tax practice, so I had to do it for the tax practice. I became CEO of the firm within Canada, so we did planning for the firm. I've been here at the CICA for 6 years, so we've done various planning exercises here as well. And the one thing I take away from strategic planning is that you can design the best plan as to what you think is going to happen. And once you've done that plan, the only thing you know that you can really be sure of is that the world's going to change. It's not going to unfold the way you thought it was going to unfold. Stuff happens. And therefore, you have to adapt. So any strategic plan always has to evolve. So the one takeaway I've always taken from strategic planning is when you think about a plan, make sure you got a plan that hedges your bets. So if the world unfolds this way, or that way, you are best positioned to win. So, again, why are we doing this? In terms of the review we did in 2010, we said to ourselves, look, if we want to secure our profession going forward, we have to be more efficient. We have to be more effective. You know, we can actually serve, we actually think we service our members very, very well, but we can actually do better. We can actually protect the public interest better as well if we can get to a common regulatory framework across Canada. We also knew that we had to secure our global influence. I talked about that earlier. We knew in terms of having that influence, it was going to take increased investment in terms of people and resources, and we just had to make that commitment. We had to find that money somewhere, and we weren't going to get it from the members because the economy was not that, you know, we have kept CICA dues flatlined for 4 straight years. We had to improve the pathways into the profession. I talked about that earlier. We had to make sure that our profession going forward was matched up for the demographic of Canada. And as I said earlier, we had looked at, you know, the 2 most globally recognized designations as CA and CPA. If you looked out 10, 15 years, would one of those evolve to be the global designation of choice? The answer to that is, I don't know, you don't know. But what we did decide is, again, hedging our bets, we wanted to secure both. So whatever happened 10 years out, if CA became the global designation of choice, if CPA became the global designation of choice, if they were both the global designation of choice, to us in Canada, you know, 4% of global capital markets, it really didn't matter because we control both, and that had to be a key piece of the puzzle going forward. Okay, so what is our approach? First step was to secure both CA and CPA. And for us, that was relatively easy. We're chartered accountant. And all we had to do was drop the word professional between the C and the A, and we really had that space nailed. Because we could say we control chartered accountant, because there's chartered and accountant in the word, and the acronym is CPA. So that was a relatively easy step. That was a step that the CA profession decided it wanted to do in the summer and early fall of 2010, and we advised the members of that at that time. And actually, Anton, to your point about being a profession, it actually fits to that, you know, sweet spot as well. Second step, when you looked at all the other things we wanted to do, we wanted to be more efficient. We wanted to, you know, have a common regulatory framework. We wanted to speak with one voice. We wanted to be able to secure our global influence by reallocating resources. We wanted to do all of those other things. And we said to ourselves, can we really do those on our own? And the straight up answer is no, you can't. We really need to see if we could unify the Canadian accounting profession, because you cannot accomplish those objectives on your own. So, what is our approach? This starts with May 2011. Let me even dial it back a bit from there to February 2011. That was a point in time that the CA profession approached the CMA profession within Canada and say, you know, we've talked about unification a lot in the past. Why don't we talk about it again? So we had some discussions with the CMAs. It didn't take long for us to decide that saying, look, if we really want to unify the profession in Canada, we should really talk to the CGAs as well. Now, we all know a 3-way is going to be harder than a 2-way, and we knew that was going to be harder, but we knew that was the right thing to do. So we engaged the CGAs. We had some 3-way discussions during March and April of 2011. And unification, just as a topic, just to step back, that's a topic that's been discussed about many, many times in the past in Canada. Each time in the past it's been talked about, it has failed miserably. This is not an easy thing to do. There are a lot of emotions around the various professional designations. They are very fierce competitors in the marketplace. There's not the same commercial rationale in terms of a merger. I went through the merger of PW and CNL. There was a very strong commercial profit motive basis to that merger. When that exists, it's much easier to do. Didn't have those same types of things here. But we held the discussions regardless. Now, we got to May 2011, we put out a position paper about how to unify the Canadian profession. By that time, most of the CJA bodies other than CJA Quebec had left, and also CMA Ontario and CMA Newfoundland had left at that time as well. They did not sign the May 2011 position paper. But we forged ahead with it anyway, setting out discussion papers to how we might go about unifying the profession within Canada. We put 8 guiding principles in that position paper in terms of, that were key in terms of things we would have to do to respect to make sure this would happen. I'm not going to go through them all. They're all on the CPA Canada website if you care to go through them. But let me talk about a couple of the key ones. If you're going to unify a profession, it didn't take us long to figure out that, you know, if somebody has to give up their designation, or if somebody has to give away their designation, you're not going to get too far. You know, for example, we could have said, okay, we're going to all be CAs going forward, so we'll just give CAs to all the CGAs and CMAs. Now, and I don't care whether it's the CA, the CGA, or the CMA you pick as the one that is going to be the final one. The fact that you're giving that away to people who have not gone through the process to get that designation means that approach is dead in the water. Also, giving up a designation. People have worked hard to get their designations. They're proud of it. They don't want to give it up. They want to keep it. So one of the things we came to realize in terms of the designation, nobody could give away a designation, nobody could give it up. And that tied nicely into the chartered professional accountant concept, because we could give everybody a new designation. We could give everybody a chartered professional accountant designation. So it would be the umbrella, the framework under which the 3 branches of the Canadian accounting profession would come together. So everybody would get a CPA. But that doesn't mean everybody would just walk away, walk around now calling themselves CPA, because there'd be market confusion with that. Like, okay, you're a CPA, but how did you get there? And that's where we came up with this concept of tagging, so that you would get a CPA, but you'd have to tag it to your legacy designation. So I would be a CPA, CA. A CMA would be a CPA, CMA. A CGA would be a CPA, CGA. And that tagging would go on for a period of about 10 years, and then the tagging would go away. Certification program. You know, the 2 key aspects of unification are get the designation right and get the certification program right. All the other stuff is important as well. I know the regulatory framework's right, and all the member services, and all the other stuff that goes around unification and the benefits of it. That's all important. But as long as you get the designation right, and as long as you get the certification program right, the rest of the stuff just falls into place. And this was another one we put out. Well, now I'm going to the January 2012 unification framework. I've gone a bit ahead of myself now. But in January 2012, we actually put out a outline as to what that certification program would look like. And it is a program that I'm proud to say will be as rigorous as the existing CA program, and I'll talk a bit more about it later. But let me tell you, so that was May 2011. We put out this position paper. So what happened from May 2011, say, to the January 2012 unification framework that I talked about? Had lots of discussion with members. During the summer of 2011, CMA Ontario and CMA Newfoundland came back into the discussions. So we had all CA and CMA bodies in it, as well as CGA Quebec. Later in the summer of 2011 into the fall of 2011, almost all of the other CGA bodies came back to the table. So now we're back into 3-way discussions. And that unification framework that we put out in January 2012, of the 40 bodies within Canada, it was subscribed to, I think, by about 38. I think there were 2 small CGA bodies that were still on the outside at the point in time that we went out with the unification framework. And we called it a unification framework because, again, this was really put out by the national bodies, CICA, CGA Canada, CMA Canada, and it was the framework under which mergers would happen in each province, in each jurisdiction, okay? Because in terms of this unification process, we're not dealing at all, we're not trying to change at all the concept that we are a provincially based profession within Canada. That's not something we're trying to change. Just like if you were trying to do something within the US, you know, anybody who said, well, I think I'll just get rid of all this state-based regulation, you know, that's just not going to go anywhere, right? So, so this framework outlined how unification could happen within each of the provinces. So let me talk about how we have moved since January 2012. It's a journey. After January 2012, into the spring of 2012, a number of the CJ bodies left again, except CJ Alberta. So CJ Quebec and CJ Alberta are still in. CA Alberta has left, and CMA Ontario has left. Okay? So today, if I looked at it today, of those 170,000 professional accountants in Canada, the Unification initiative covers about 65% of the professional accountants within Canada. It's about 27 of the 40 bodies. In terms of upside, downside risk going forward, the risk is all on the upside, is that we'll get more bodies going forward. CPA is a reality in Quebec. The CA, CMA, and CJ bodies have merged within Quebec. They are now all CPAs within Quebec. That represents about 20% of the professional accountants within Canada. And when you consider that factor alone, and when you consider how we're doing in all the other provinces across Canada, the only designation that has a chance to be a national designation in all provinces within Canada going forward is CPA. The next line says we have had successful CA votes in 5 provinces. We just got the results from Saskatchewan on Monday. I can now say that we have had successful member CA votes in 6 provinces within Canada: BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, PEI, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland. We have also, I don't have it on the slide, but within Alberta, I did mention that the CA Alberta had left. CJ Alberta and CMA Alberta are still in the game. They have had successful member votes, and they are proceeding to merge within Alberta. CA Ontario moving to CPA. As I said, CMA Ontario's left, CJ Ontario's left, so CA Ontario is not really merging with anybody at this point in time, but they have made the decision to move to CPA. And they put out the regulations and the bylaws to that effect, and indeed, tomorrow, I will become a chartered professional accountant within Ontario. I'm very pleased by that. Thank you, Rod. Just sitting there. At the national level, CMA Canada and CICA have announced that it is their intent to create CPA Canada on January the 1st of 2013 and to integrate the operations of the 2 national bodies during 2013. The old legacy national bodies will stick around for a while in terms of servicing legacy member bodies, but CPA Canada should become a reality on January the 1st, 2013. The feedback we have had throughout this journey from all external stakeholders, from regulators, from investors, from others within Canada has been extremely positive. We have had a number of what we call endorsers of the unification effort within Canada. We have put those up on our website, and we are very pleased with that. Which brings me to the CPA certification program, which I said is the most important issue really now, and it is the crown jewel of the unification process. That is being developed as we speak. It will be rolled out in Western Canada in the fall of 2013, next fall. It'll be rolled out in every province within Canada in 2014, and the first CPA uniform exam within Canada will take place in the fall of 2015. And we're very pleased with that. It's probably our biggest initiative going forward to make sure we get that right. The certification program also includes what we call a mid-tier paraprofessional level. And we're having this for 2 reasons. We realize that not all entrants into the accounting profession aspire or need to get to the CPA level. We also know that the business community in terms of servicing their needs, they do not need everyone at the full CPA level. So we will have a mid-tier para-professional level. So that's what's been accomplished. The outlook to date is extremely positive. When I speak about unification now within Canada, it's not if, as in is this some kind of hypothetical thing that might happen or could happen. When I talk to people now, it's about when this will happen and how this will happen. And I think the combination of unification within Canada, combined with the Chartered Professional Accountant designation, are extremely important steps within Canada to secure our profession going forward, to best protect our profession going forward, to best protect the public interest in Canada going forward, again with uniform certification, common regulatory frameworks, etc., and to help best position us to maintain the influence that we like to think we have and hope we will have going forward in terms of global standard setting, etc. So that's my talk. It's 10 o'clock. I'm done, Lori.